case was dismissed because the Trump Barr DOJ OLC opinion that was sent to the US Archivist last year is still in place. It's still in place, and it will be in place there until Merrick Garland is voted in as the next US Attorney General. That's when the DOJ, the Department of Justice, will get back into shape. And that's when you will see changes from the OLC, the Office of Legal Counsel. Now, the second major thing that happened, another milestone this year, is that the office of the US Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, just announced that the ERA bill to remove the extra textual time limit from the ERA is going to be heard the week of March 15th. That's March 15th. That's next week, folks. So we got something really immediate to look forward to. Congress, of course, has always had the power to change that time limit, remove it, or ignore it. And we'll find out what happens now starting March 15th. And so at the federal level, the two bills that we have are SJ-Res 1, and yes, you heard that right. That's Senate Joint Resolution number 1 that shows the priority of the Equal Rights Amendment in our US Senate this year, and HJ-Res 17. And that's easy to remember because this is the 117th Congress, and we have HJ-Res 17. So HJ-Res 17 will be brought up next week. We can't say exactly the day because of all the other things that are in the way of it, but that's their intention, and let's get it done. So lastly, folks, at the federal level, there's just this tremendous energy, and it's all across the United States. If you are watching us on ERA Minnesota on Facebook, you'll see that every single day we are sharing things that are happening in states all across the country, and particularly unratified states like Georgia and Utah and Florida and different places that are making a lot of noise right now. I know that North Carolina and South Carolina are really strongly making their push, as is Arizona. These are states that did not ratify the federal ERA originally, but they are doing it now. They're working hard on it. Also, I just want to point out that Nevada, one of the 3 states that ratified the Equal Rights Amendment in the last 4 years, is now pushing for a state ERA. And they're either the only one, or they might be this year one of 2 legislators legislatures that have a majority women legislature. So there's a good chance that that's going to happen. So then I'm going to turn it back to Heather to talk about our state ERA bills. Heather?
Hi, yes, good morning. So thank you so much, Betty, for all that. We were trying to put things in the chat. Again, be sure to open your chat if you haven't, and we're putting in bill numbers in there. And so you can make sure we'll also be sending out all of this information through our email. So if you're not signed up, go to eramn.org, sign up to follow us on our email list. And again, so thank you, Betty, for the update on national. It is very exciting. You know, we are closer than we've ever been. We continue to get closer, and we just can't exhale yet. We're still working hard, and we're working hard here at the state level as well. So without giving a ton of background, here in Minnesota, you know, we said yes to that national level ERA right away back early on in the 70s. But what we didn't do is we did not put an Equal Rights Amendment into our Minnesota state constitution. And it's really important, as our laws are set up here in this country, to have that state level as well as the federal level. So yes, we truly do need both, even if and when the federal, not if, when the federal goes through and is acknowledged as a 28th Amendment and that deadline is dropped, then we still need it here in Minnesota. It is still important for our state level laws to have that in our Minnesota state constitution. So we have 2 versions of that bill. One that mirrors the national language and uses the word sex, and one that says gender instead of sex. And we have been advised by constitutional attorneys, constitutional law attorneys, and in the courts that the use of sex and gender are synonymous in court. No, they are not synonymous in the dictionary, but they are synonymous when they are handled in court. And so we have been assured that no matter which version of those bills go through, that all bodies, that all people will be covered equally under the law. And so that's what's important. That's what it really comes down to. We need that respect and that fair and equal treatment under the law in Minnesota and nationally as well. We also in Minnesota have our bills memorializing Congress, urging Congress, asking, demanding Congress to remove that deadline. And that's what we call our resolution to Congress, to remove that extra textual deadline on the Equal Rights Amendment. So out in Minnesota legislature, if you go and look, it looks like there's a whole bunch of bills and some folks get really confused, but actually because there's so many, it means we have a lot of support. We have a huge show of support from our Minnesota Senate and our Minnesota House. Our legislators care very strongly and deeply about this particular piece of legislation, as well as so many other very important pieces that they carry. And they need to know that we support them and that this matters a lot to us as well. And so that's why you're here today. That's why traditionally we'd be making as much noise and as big of a presence as we possibly could at our Minnesota State Capitol. This year is a little different, so we're doing it this way. And so again, that is basically where our state, our Minnesota State Legislature is at. We are desperately trying to get these bills heard in committee. The committee deadlines are fast approaching. Even if we don't make these committee deadlines, these bills will still be alive next year, same bill numbers. But what's important is that we not lose steam, we not lose headway. And so as much progress as we can possibly make this year just puts us that much further ahead for next year when we would see these bills, especially for the state amendment, going out onto the ballot in 2022 for Minnesotans to decide, because really that's what it comes down to is Minnesotans need the chance to vote on having an ERA in their state constitution. And right now, especially in the Senate, leadership is refusing to give Minnesotans the opportunity to make that decision, to vote what the ERA means to them. It's not up to leadership to decide whether or not we have that say. It's up to us. And so we need them to give us the opportunity to vote on that. And so it has to be heard in committee and it has to be passed out of the House and Senate. And again, that resolution to Congress, we desperately need that to be heard and to go out and to uphold the work that's happening at that federal level. So there we are nationally, there we are in the state, and I'm a little, on the Zoom calls, I would normally be looking out at the crowd and finding our senators and our representatives and herding them over and our partners. So instead I'm looking at tiny boxes and little names. And so I've been trying to make note of who is on the call right now.
Yeah. And I just got a text from Sandy Pappas, Senator Pappas. They're still in their caucus.
Okay.
And as soon as they're done with caucus, she's going to hop on to this call. And so we'll see some senators then. They're kind of locked in right now. But fine. I just wanted to point out that this is why we need your voices. This is why we need you today to say to your legislators, we need you to hear this bill. And we particularly need you to be talking to Paul Gazelka and Andrew, what's his last name? I'm forgetting his last name. Matthews, just Matthews, right? Andrew Matthews and to Warren Limmer. Those are three people who have all been gatekeepers in the Senate. In the House, we need people to aim to the leadership in the House, and you will be posting those lists too. So we're going to put those lists in the chat and we'll put it on the screen so you can see who to target both at the federal level and at the state level.
Thank you. And I will. And I just wanted to turn it over quickly. We have Representative Herr here with us this morning. Cowley, I thank you so much for being here, Representative Herr. Would you be willing and happy to speak on your bill here?
I would absolutely. I put down in the chat that what my House file number is, and for those who might not have seen it, My bill is House File 406, and I'm carrying the version that has the word sex in it. And so please go out and, follow it, or you can actually click that you want to follow where that bill is going. And I'm actually, just as you were speaking, I was texting Chair Becker-Finn's committee administrator, because that's where my bill would go first. And there's lots of deadlines happening now. So I do have, I'm working on it. I continue to work on this. And I just wanted to say first that I'm really happy to be here on with all of you today. I woke up this morning and it was beautiful and sunny, and I said, how fitting for International Women's Day, right? And then I got to work and I was looking through my emails, and I got an email with some stats that just like blew me away, right? I think that I'm on top of this. I know this information, that I understand, and I see the issues with equity around gender and sex, and I'm thinking like I know enough. And then I see this email that tells me that the Supreme Court deemed corporations as people with constitutional rights 50 years before women achieved the right to vote. And I just thought, that is unacceptable, right? And yet that we are still fighting today, right? And like for equal recognition. And as many on this call today already talked about how today's International Women's Day, I think that it's really important for us to remember that this was born out of the women's suffrage movement, and that this day for me represents an expression of how hard women all over the world have had to fight to secure the same legal status, rights, and opportunities as men. And that the work that I do always takes this into consideration. Before I talk about this particular ERA bill, I just wanted to let all of you know that I am also carrying the state's $15 minimum wage bill. I'm also carrying the bill on eliminating pay history questions when you're interviewing for jobs, because what we know that they're always going to ask us our pay. And of course, we already get paid less than men do for the same equal job, which means that at our next job, we are going to get paid less again, because it is not illegal for an employer to base your next pay on what you got paid before. And so that was really important for me. And I had a hearing in judiciary for that. But most importantly, like this bill that I'm carrying, the bill to amend the Minnesota Constitution, Article 1, by adding a section providing for gender equity under the law. All we're doing is asking to put the question to voters, right? That shall Minnesota's Constitution be amended to provide that equality under the law must not be abridged or denied on the account of sex. I don't think we're asking for a lot. I think that we are asking for something so small. And yet, as Betty mentioned earlier, 3 days ago, a federal judge stated that we acted too late to ratify the Equal Rights Amendment. And this is really like the story of our life, right? We know all too well how like the goalpost continually gets moved as we get closer and closer and closer to like scoring that touchdown or getting into that end zone. Somebody says to us, well, and there's always a reason why. We have more work to do, but that does not deter me. It may disappoint me, but that does not deter me. I have more resolve than ever in this fight and for this fight. And I will continue to put the interests of those marginalized and oppressed in the forefront. And I will continue to fight for equity and justice. And I couldn't think of a better crew to be doing this with than all of you. And then I just wanted to say on this very special and amazing day, I wanted to thank you all for your energy, for your work, and for your support. I was in the rotunda that day. I think was it last year or the year before? I think it was last year. And it was just the energy that comes from that, right? Like we need that from each other. And how do we continue to harness our energy, not being able to be in that space together, so that we can continue to move forward, so that we will not be denied. And so I just wanted to say that little bit today. Just thank you for allowing me to carry the bill. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of this movement. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of each and every one of you, even if it's just a little part of your life. I feel like we are all connected in so many ways. And I'm so appreciative of that. So thank you all for letting me be a part of this.
Fantastic. Listen, let me just jump in here because Kali, I love your energy. I love your enthusiasm and your passion for this. But I also want to let you know that yesterday I wrote off to Representative Jamie Becker-Finn too as her constituent. So you hit her today, I hit her yesterday, and I hope that every single person on this call today will write off to Representative Jamie Becker-Finn from Roseville and tell her we need her to have a hearing this week this week on the Equal Rights Amendment bills. She is the head of judiciary. She's the chair of the Judiciary Committee, and she is a Democrat, and we need her to help us. This is a nonpartisan issue because Democrats, Republicans, independents all have supported the Equal Rights Amendment over many decades, and we need to have everybody on the same page right now. And just so you know, remember, March 15th, that's when it's going to be heard in the US House next week. Next week, it's going to be in the US House. And so that these bills should be reflected in the State House immediately.
Thank you. I don't mean to cut you off. We have Senator Pappas, and she's got just 1 minute. So I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off, Senator Pappas. And thank you so much, perfect. Representative Herr. That was amazing. Thank you. Senator Pappas, we'd love to hear from you if you've got a quick minute.
Thanks so much, Heather. Yeah, I have to run over to the floor, and I'm not on the floor right now. I'm across the street. But thanks so much to wonderful words from Representative Herr. And I just want to remind everyone kind of the basic issues, the basic rights that we've slowly gained thanks to Ruth Bader Ginsburg, thanks to the 19th Amendment and many court cases that had we passed the ERA from the get-go, we would have not had to fight for, and we're still fighting for them. So my bill is to put the ERA in the Minnesota Constitution, even though we're close to getting it nationally. And it would prohibit laws and policies that are based on historic stereotypes. So let me give you an example. In 1914, a New Mexico court noted that in the old common law, women were incapable mentally of exercising judgment and discretion, and were classed with children, bad language, lunatics, idiots, and aliens. Similar stereotypes had to be overcome to win the 19th Amendment of women's right to vote. Also, women won the right to serve as jurors, to own property, to inherit equally, to serve in public office, yay, to own credit cards, to keep their names. And it goes on and on, plus things we still don't have, like equal pay, like pregnancy accommodations, like equal access to contraception. So there's still work to be done. The ERA is going to really help us get there. And thank you all so much for your ongoing advocacy and assistance and help and support. And let's just keep doing it. And I know things don't look well in the Senate. They never do, but eventually we're going to get there. So thank you all so much.
Thank you, Senator Pappas. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Senator Pappas, and for all the work you do. And someday I have so much hope that our Senate will be a very different body, full of very supportive folks like yourself. And, you know, I think that's already starting to happen. So we're starting to see that shifting tide, which is exciting. So I just wanted to let folks know that we will be posting links to those bills as well as calls to action and all that coming up. But I just wanted to do a quick check and see if we had any other legislators present, and I don't see any at the moment. So what I am going to do is turn it over to some of our partner organization representatives who are here with us right now. And I'm just doing a quick check. I've been making a little list. So we have from the National Council of Jewish Women, Minnesota, Beth Gendler here with us today. Beth, would you be willing to speak for a few minutes?
Absolutely. Thank you, Heather. Thanks so much for inviting me to celebrate International Women's Day with ERA Minnesota. Huge thanks to the authors and co-authors of the Minnesota ERA bill for your tenacity and perseverance. I mean, how is it possible that equality under the law is something that we still need to lobby for when I think I read that 90% of Minnesotans of every political party want it, and nearly that many assume that we already have it, and that 26 states already have an equal rights amendment to their constitutions and we don't. And I mean, we're Minnesotans and we've already let ourselves fall below average. It's mind-boggling to me that we still need to have this conversation, but here we are. And since we've got to be here, I am super grateful to be here with all of you. So National Council of Jewish Women in Minnesota has been working to improve the quality of life for women, children, and families here and across the country since 1893. What that means is that we work for reproductive freedom, education equity, gun violence prevention, menstrual equity, and economic justice for women, children, and families, and also for fair courts. And I know that I don't need to tell this group that having equal rights codified in our Constitution would make all of those fights more fair. So here at NCJW, we have been with you at the ERA table since the beginning, and I promise you, no matter how tired we get, we're not going anywhere. And as a Jewish women's organization, I want to acknowledge that Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg's birthday is 1 week from today, in addition to being the day that the hearing happens in DC. And we're still in the year-long mourning period in Jewish tradition. So I want to honor Justice Ginsburg's memory by sharing some of her words about the ERA. I also never miss an opportunity to show off my RBG Dissent scarf, which might be my favorite gift ever. But in a 2014 interview, Justice Ginsburg said, if I could choose any amendment to add to the Constitution, it would be the Equal Rights Amendment. She called the ERA a fundamental principle that belongs in our Constitution, warning, as we know and have seen, even right here in Minnesota, that anti-discrimination laws can be repealed or altered, and new horrifically discriminatory laws can be introduced, like the too terrible to imagine one that's actually being debated in our state right now that would demand the inspection of girls' genitals in order for them to play sports. Sometimes truth is stranger than fiction. Justice Ginsburg went on to say that I would like my granddaughters, when they pick up the Constitution, to see that notion that women and men are persons of equal stature. I'd like them to see that as a basic principle of our society. So let's get this done for Justice Ginsburg's granddaughters, for our children and grandchildren, and for all Minnesotans. Thanks for having me today, and thanks for all you do.
Thank you.
Beth, thank you
Fabulous.
so much. Absolutely. Yes, thank you. And yes, NCJW Minnesota has been one of our very supporting partners, again, for years now. And we, of course, very much support the work that you do and the very important work you do. So thank you for all you do. Another one of our partner reps we have with us here today is, I believe we have Rebecca Lucas on from
Yes.
Minnesota Move to Amend.
Yes.
Rebecca, if you're there, I'd love to have you go next.
Hi, thank you. I'm so happy to be a part of this call, and Move to Amend is proud to be supporters of the ERA. Move to Amend is a national organization, for those of you that don't know about us, that wants to make the country a real democracy where all people's voices are heard. Our original Constitution only protected the voice of 5 to 7% of US citizens. Those protected were landowning white males. Throughout our history as US citizens have left without this protection, have had to face a continuous struggle to realize inclusion in this elite group of those who are protected by our Constitution. There are many groups who have faced this struggle to become people considered protected. These groups include us, women, as we struggle to finalize ERA still today. They also include Native Americans, Black Americans, Asian Americans, LGBTQ Americans, and on the list goes. Move to Amend sees the court-constructed fiction of corporate personhood as the primary roadblock in this work of defining who are people to be protected by our Constitution. The only way to remove this roadblock is to amend the US Constitution so that it states clearly that only live human beings are people, and that corporations are not people, and corporate money is not the same as free speech. The power of corporate money flooding our political system drowns out all other human voices. There is no effective way for people to be heard over this powerful voice of corporate money. Right now, we live in a country where corporations are defined by law as people, and thus their rights are protected by the Constitution, and women still have no constitutional guarantee of equal and protected rights. This is so obviously wrong. Women are people, corporations are not.
Here,
Our
here.
work is in full support of realizing the right of women's voices to be heard and to be heeded. We must finalize ERA, and we must amend the US Constitution to say corporations are not people and money is not the same as free speech. I truly hope that our work together will continue until we've realized victory, and I am proud to be a part of this group. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes,
That was
Rebecca.
very, very wonderful.
Thank you, absolutely, and thank you for all the work you do with Move to Amend, because you are 100% right that no corporations are not people and should not have more rights under the law than human bodies, and especially the fact that half of the human bodies in this country are still not represented under the law fairly. So thank you so much for all you are doing. And again, we will be posting links to our partner orgs as well when we do the calls to action. So be sure to have your chat open. So thank you, Rebecca. So next we have Anne, if I pronounce your last name incorrectly, and it's either, is it Tracy or Tracy?
Tracy.
Tracy from Women's
Tracy. It's a good Irish name. Tracy, like Shay.
Excellent. And Tracy, thank you so much for being with us for Women's March Minnesota. I'd love to hand it over to you now.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's a, Heather says I'm from Women's March Minnesota. I just want to say thank you for having us. Thank you for leading us and for continuing a long fought battle to get equal rights amendment on the Minnesota and federal constitutions. It's passing the EIRA would secure the scaffolding for equal pay, for access to health care, prohibit discrimination, all the things we've been talking about based on gender and so much more. It seems so basic. I think it gets overlooked. If people have quoted, people think we already have these rights and we don't. And that's exactly why we need to continue to fight for it. We need to raise our voices, raise everybody's voices.
Right.
Just a quick minute on the Women's March Minnesota. We believe that women's rights are human rights. We have 8 unity principles, kind of an intersectional approach to things. I'm looking at my screen now, so I make sure I get every single one of them. We've got civil rights, ending violence, immigrant and refugee rights, environmental rights, LGBTQIA community, working on those rights, rights for people with disabilities, workers' rights, reproductive rights. You can see how well they tie in with the ERA. We thank you. We thank you for the energy that the ERA Minnesota brings into every room. Back in the good old day when we were all in the Capitol, we knew when we saw that sea of green that you folks were there, that we were there. I feel like we stand on the shoulder of giants, and with you we are becoming the shoulders of giants. We joined this fight so that the next generation can stand on equal ground. I have 3 daughters. I know many of us are parents, grandparents, aunties, cousins. We stand on each other's shoulders and lift each other's up, regardless of gender. So we hope that the next generation will go on emboldened to fight new battles. And thank you. Thank you for leading us and lifting us.
Thank you. Marvelous. Thank you, Anne.
Thank you so much, Anne. Absolutely. And again, Women's March Minnesota has been a partner with us through so much for many years now. And again, we support the very important work they do. And because again, it's all about doing this together, right? As Anne mentioned, and Beth mentioned, and Rebecca mentioned, all of these pieces connect. All of these pieces intersect around the pay equity, around violence, around homelessness, around immigrant rights, around health issues. All of these things connect. And again, we can put acts in, we can have some laws, but until you actually have something firmly embedded in the Constitution, none of those little scraps and band-aids hold up against the massive hemorrhaging wound that has become so systemic in our courts and in our the way that our lives are dealt with daily. And so that respect and that strength and power comes from having something firmly embedded in the Constitution. And so
Here, I just want to say that it's been exacerbated so much this year through the pandemic. We have seen terrible inequities, particularly in the workplace. When we think about who is an essential worker, we look at the healthcare workers, and 75% are women. We look at the way the violence against women that has increased in this pandemic. We look at all of the women who have lost jobs because of this pandemic, the childcare crisis that we have because of this pandemic, which puts more burden on women. And I just saw in the New York Times today that child marriage has just increased because of the pandemic. That is another thing that shortens a young woman's life, that puts terrible burdens. Child marriage, as we know, is sexual violence. And so, yes, it's been much more exacerbated through the pandemic. Thanks, Heather.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Betty. And it is so true. And again, we know with the trial today and this week of Derek Chauvin for the murder of George Floyd, again, our communities of color are impacted so much more greatly, not just during a pandemic, but every day throughout history. And when we look at our communities of color and our women of color and Indigenous communities, again, not as well every day, but also during a pandemic, there are so many pieces of injustice. And so we have to fix it. We have to make it right and make it better. So we have one more partner speaker here with us today from the Minnesota Shared Parenting Action Group, Sarah Line. If you are,
Hi.
There you are. Thank you so much for being with us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. First, I'd like to send a huge thank you to ERA for the celebration of International Women's Day. I'm very excited to be here celebrating with you all today. I am here with a partner at Minnesota Shared Parenting. We are a group that supports equal parenting rights for both parents, regardless of gender. We value both fathers and mothers equally in family courts and are working to give them an equal starting place. I remember when I first entered the single mom world, when my ex and I decided to proceed forward with a divorce. In craving some normalcy, I adopted a 6-year-old standard poodle for my kids. She was a good 80 pounds, but she thought that she was a lap dog. I think we all know a dog that's just massive, that thinks that they're just this tiny little thing. Many times she wouldn't recognize her own strength and would knock my little kids over in her excitement or in her alarm. She was the most loving dog that I have ever had, but in her biggest flaw was not realizing her power. And as women, especially as I look at my position in life, I realize I am my poodle. I have so much power that I don't even realize, and a voice that I can give to help elevate those around me. As we shed more light into healthier family dynamics, we are mindful that our power, I want to be mindful of my power as we navigate these delicate steps. There's a lot of correlations between equal shared parenting, well-being, and financial success among single moms. Numerous studies have shown that children of equal shared parenting do better emotionally, mentally, and are more financially stable and do better in school. Father involvement directly impacts many women's issues. These are not just women issues, these are society issues like equal pay, essential workers being available to work in the workplace, and fathers and mothers sharing child raising duties. Awarding mothers sole majority custody places a large burden on them. So moms that champion and share parenting equally are not just creating space for themselves to succeed, but for their children as well. Laws do not currently support this equality. When we discriminate anyone based on gender, we are taking steps backward. So it's my hope that we use our power and our voices to create more equal rights for all genders and create examples for our children. So thank you so much for having us here today as we move forward towards more equality for everyone.
Thank you. Wonderful.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And we're very excited to have your organization join us today and to again help lift up the work you do. And again, we're all in this together. So thank you so much. I didn't see any other legislators come on or any other partner speakers. I just want to say a huge thank you to Representative Herr, to Beth Gendler, to Ann Tracy, Sarah Line, Rebecca Lucas. I know we had Elise McQuaid from Gender Justice was supposed to be with us, but maybe she'll be there tonight. And we have, and Minnesota Now, of course, as well. Minnesota Now, we have a very large list of allies on our website at eramn.org. And Minnesota Now is our fiscal agent. So they handle our our taxes, and they do all the dirty work of managing the funds, you know, that we raise. Again, we're a fully nonprofit, 100% volunteer-based organization where every penny that's donated goes into the work that we do, and they help us and support us by being our fiscal agent. And so we can't thank them enough as well. And for our full list of allies, you can find that online, but today's partners especially wanted to be a part of sharing today's events. Representative Her is having to say goodbye. So thank you so much.
Bye.
Representative Her,
And
hopefully we continue this
I want to
evening.
give a list here for folks, just so that you hear all of the legislators who are working for us right now. We've got Representative Her and Representative Bonner and Representative Fisher and Representative Hornstein, 4 state representatives who are offering bills this year. And they're all in. Actually, Representative Hornstein's bill is going in today on International Women's Day. So look for that. And then in the Senate, we have Senator Pappas, who we heard from. We have Senator Dibble, Senator Uyghur, Senator Kunesh, Senator Rest, Senator McEwen, and Senator Torres Ray. That's the support we have. When you look at the Senate, you're going to see there was just this explosion of ERA bills. And the reason is because the Senate can only put 5 co-authors on any bill. And there were so many of them that wanted to be on ERA bills this year. And they're doing something that mirrors what was happening in the US House of Representatives last year. Last year, we had 224 bill authors, bill co-sponsors. 224, that's a majority in the US House. And our legislation passed last session. Of course, they have to redo it this session. That's what they're going to do next week. And we already have over 200 co-sponsors on our Senate, on our representative bills. So if you want to help with the House bills, then look at the information that Heather is going to share on the screen, and you'll see who to contact. You've got Senator Ben Cardin is the Senate resolution author and chief author, and Jackie Spear in the House. And here are the contacts, which she'll put here and as well into the chat, so you can copy and paste it. It's got the information, it's got their phone numbers, it's got their emails, it's got the contact names in the Judiciary Committee, in their aides, their Senate aides. Is this the Senate here? Let's see. Yeah, this is the Senate target list. It's got their aides names and also their women's issues contact if they have a contact in their office. And so you've got all the information you need to just run down that list today before our evening event with Carol Jenkins and make some calls for the US Senate. Also, can we put up the House one there, and we'll talk about that a second, because that's a little bit more prescient. That's for this week. If you've got that, Heather, we'll put that up, and it'll show you the target list of who to reach in the US House this week to ask them to be a co-sponsor. And the list that goes up will be, as I say, the targeted legislators. We don't have to call everybody, and we sure don't have to contact the ones in our state who are already on it, but we have some folks who are in our state who aren't on it. I know that Betty McCollum, my legislator, is on it. Ilhan Omar was our, when she was a state representative, she chief authored our ERA bill. And I know that what is it, Representative Dean Phillips from the 3rd is a big supporter. But these are the targeted legislators who we want to ask specifically, will you please be a co-sponsor of HJ Res 17. And that's the statement. That's the whole email right there. Will you please be a co-sponsor of SJ Res 17? So Heather will put that in the chat as well. And Heather, do you want to talk about our targeted folks in the House and Senate here in Minnesota?
Yes, apologies. For some reason, it was not letting me share the screen and put the link in the chat. So I had to keep going back. Anyway, apologies. It's all this technical stuff. I'm actually going to turn it over to Haley to talk about our calls to action for here at the state level. Haley Dickinson is our vice president. And so again, I'm just going to quickly, though, before I turn it over to Haley, I'm going to share my screen. And these are the Minnesota legislature, the bills coming out of the Minnesota legislature that Betty was referencing. And again, you'll see there are a number of them, but again, some of them are clone bills and duplicates to get that extra show of support. But those are the bill numbers with the companion bills and the language. And again, we'll be sending all of this out to you. And so Haley, if you would like to come on and talk about our calls to action, I will, bear with me, everyone. Sorry.
And you'll need to unmute there, Haley. Good.
Yep. Cool. Hey friends, before I do get started, I do just want to say a lot of people said stuff about like fighting for the next generation and, you know, ensuring that the next generations to come have all these rights and are living under an ERA. And I do just want to emphasize that young people are in this fight now. We just had Generation Ratify start up in Minnesota. I don't know if anyone from that organization is here, but they are basically a youth-led group of ERA, basically the youth version of ERA. So give them a follow on social media, check out the work that they're doing. They're just getting started, but just wanted to emphasize that young people are in on this fight. So on state ERA action steps, we know that committee deadlines are coming up very, very soon now at this point. We just had our lobby days, so thank you if you joined us at those. And the most important thing that you can do right now is contact your legislator. On both the Democrat and the Republican sides, we've had pushback saying that, you know, we're really focused on COVID, on all this other stuff that is going on. But really, when we're talking about COVID, we need to be talking about, you know, the protection, like women are on the front lines. We need to be talking about the protections that aren't available. We need to be talking about the equality in that. We know that we're talking about an economic recovery at this point. We need to be talking about equal pay, you know, so there are many ways in which this is. Heather, do you want to share your screen again?
Yep, sorry, I couldn't put it in the chat, so I was trying to highlight you while you were talking, then I was going to.
All good. Yeah, so we know that the ERA is applicable as we're talking about COVID and talking about all of the stuff that is deemed relevant right now. And yes, equality, someone put in the chat, there's always a reason women are asked to wait. Equality can't wait. Equality doesn't need to wait. This is a very basic amendment. This is a very basic value that voters should be able to share their opinions on. So contact your legislator. There is some info on this link that Heather has up. We do have a video of our lobby day training that we will be posting soon, or if you have questions about how to contact your legislator, you can always reach out to info@eramn.org where you registered. But really just contact them by email, by phone, ask them to support ERA bills. Specifically, if you want to contact more than your representatives, we want to be talking to those committee chairs. So Chair Jamie Becker-Finn in the House and Chair Andrew Matthews in the Senate are the first committees that the ERA bill would go to. We also want to do citizen committee hearings. And so what this looks like in virtual time is really watching committee hearings, sharing on social media, targeting that messaging at the committee chairs and the committee members. So at the times of the committee hearings, and again, this is available at that link. At the times of the committee hearings, if you want to go on social media, let them know that you're watching them, that you're holding them accountable, tagging your legislators, or again, more importantly, those two chairs, writing editorials and opinion pieces to your local paper. Definitely an option even past these deadlines and past legislative session. We always want to be educating and talking about the ERA and talking about the importance of it. Speak out about the legislators who support the ERA and those who don't by sharing on social media. Yes, so use the power of social media. There's definitely limitations to that, but in this virtual space, or I mean, in this virtual time, really, we can't go to the Capitol. Social media is one of the best ways to get the attention of legislators, especially Twitter. If you hashtag MNLeg and at the people that you want to see your tweets, that is a really great way to get the attention of legislators and show that you are still showing up, even though we cannot be there in person. So that's really the most important things. So contact your legislators again, and use social media to tag these people in leadership, tag your representatives. Something that's important to know is that when representatives and senators receive a certain amount of calls and a certain amount of tweets, you know, if they're seeing like one tweet about this issue, they're probably not going to take notice. But if they're seeing 5, 10, getting multiple contacts, seeing this targeted at them on social media, they're going to start to take notice. They're going to note that this is an important bill for a lot of people. And that's really important. So again, especially for these committee chairs, as we approach these deadlines, we want to make sure that they know that this is important and that a lot of people want to see this heard. So I think that's what I've got.
Awesome. Thank you, Haley. And I did post links in the chat, and I'm now posting our partner links and the pieces of legislation that they're working hard on as well. So please be sure to open your chat and check out those links there. The ways to help and get involved are also on there. And then the federal action steps I'm going to post those again now. So be sure to open your chat. Be sure to go to eramn.org. There are lots of resources on there as you're having these conversations, either with your legislators or your friends or your family or your neighbors. We have fact sheets on there. We have presentations on there. Like Haley said, we will be posting a recorded version of the Lobby Day training, and today's events will also be on there as well. So anything that we can help get the word out, that's what we are here for. We don't own the ERA. It is for everyone and everybody. And so everybody has a different reason why it matters to them. And that's the thing that's the most important to highlight as you're having these conversations with, especially the legislators. There isn't really, you know, we have scripts, we have sample scripts on how to talk to them, but really what's most important is just what it means to you. Why do you care? And so whether it's talking about the national movement for the federal ERA, or here in our state, Minnesota state legislation, what it means to you, to your family, to your loved ones, and to all of us as bodies wanting to be treated equally under the law. And so thank you so much, Haley, for going over our calls to action, and Betty for our calls to action nationally. Again, we are closer than we've ever been. It's super exciting. If we were in the rotunda, we could be shouting and cheering and making a lot of noise, because that's a big part of it, making noise. We need to make noise about this, yes. And be creative. As many ways as you can think to make noise about it, do it.
And they need to hear from you today. That's what
yes.
the rally has always been. This is where we all go out to all of the offices and we talk to our legislators. So we need you today to reach out to your legislators and to reach out to Jamie Becker-Finn, folks who really haven't heard from us. They think that we're not even there, but we're just working out how to do this through COVID. So we need your help, and we need it now.
That's absolutely right. And so we are wrapping up our morning rally portion. I will stay on and help answer any questions anyone has. I really hope we'll see all of you this evening at 7 o'clock at our celebration portion of the day. We'll have more of our legislators there. We're going to hear from Carol Jenkins, our amazing ERA Coalition President and CEO. I'm so excited to hear from her. We're going to launch our silent auction. Again, it's all a learning curve, so it's a little bumpy along the way, but we're in it together. We're doing it together. And I'm just so excited to have you all with us and for us to all be together. So thank you, everyone. And I hope to see you tonight. And again, feel free to stay on with questions.
Thank you, everybody. Take care.
Happy
Bye-bye.
International Women's Day.
Happy International Women's Day. Bye
Yes,
now.
invite legislators to tonight. Absolutely.
Bye,
That's a great
everyone.
idea.
Bye.
Bye, Jeanette. I love all your, oh, she had all her bling on. That was great.
I must say, I've not been able to look away from Curtis's screen like this entire time.
It's very mesmerizing. I know.
It is.